Yo, what's up, people? Lovely to see you all here today. My name is Lawal, and in this video, we'll be creating a product filtering system with Sveltekit, Svelte 5, and Upstash. Now, this video was originally created by Josh on his YouTube channel, Josh Tried Upstash. Make sure you guys go check him out. But there was one issue. He created it using Next.js and React. Yeah, I know. So I'm here to help him fix that issue up by recreating this project. But this time we'll be using Sveltekit and the upcoming Svelte 5. So if you've heard about Svelte 5, you've heard about the runes hype, but you don't know what it entails, then this video is definitely for you. Now, of recent, I've decided to embark on a journey whereas I rebuild as much React project on the internet to Svelte. So if you want to join me and journey with me and also support me on this mission, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video. Now, the reason for doing it is just because I want to show people how superior of a library or a framework Svelte is to the other counterparts, or maybe counterfeits, we should call them. Well, I just get a lot of comments from people telling me that they can't build high products or large scale products with Svelte and Sveltekit because of the ecosystem is small, which is just false. Because of there's a good old saying here that I think is kind of cringe, but it goes that the JavaScript ecosystem is the Svelte ecosystem, which is true, because of Svelte allows you integrate any JavaScript library seamlessly to your Svelte application. So it's like the only framework out there that does this seamlessly. There does not have to be any wrapper or any sort of thing like that. It just works seamlessly. And even if you want a Svelte or Sveltekit specific integration, most libraries out there implement that. So you have no excuse to want to build with Sveltekit. And I think this is an awareness issue. People are not just aware enough of Svelte and Sveltekit. So I'm trying to help that situation up by building as much projects as I can with Svelte and Sveltekit, so that you can see how beautiful of an experience it is to build with these tools. So without any further ado, let's get coding. Now, first of all, we're going to have a demo of the application. As you can see on my screen, we have the app opened right here, and we have all the products listed here on these 3-column grids. And on the left side is the functionality where we have the filters. Now we have for the colors right here, where we can choose the colors that we want to show and the ones that we want not to be shown. Right now, all colors are selected. So if I click on white, it's going to refresh it, and you see that white have been filtered out. No more white t-shirts. And I can click on the beige, the blue, the green as well. Now we'd have just purple t-shirts being shown. Let me just click on all that back to bring them all back. Now for the size, as you can see right here, we have the size listed here. And I want only small size, so I'll get rid of the medium and the large. So we only have small sizes being listed. I can put them back. And for the price, very similar, but for the price, we can actually choose a custom price. So, but first, let's go with the under 20. Now, all the price that will be listed will be under $20. So as you can see, we have 19.99, 19.99. If I scroll down, you'll see that it's still under 20. I can go for under 40. The same functionality there, but this time it's going to be under $40. And I can go for custom. Now, when I go for custom, I have this range slider here that I can use. So I can go from $0 to $60. And it's going to be from 0 to 60 around that price range. And I can go from $30 to $60. So we see only t-shirts that are around from $30 to $60. And as you can see, that's basically the whole filter. But we also have one more right here for sorting. So we can sort the price from high to low and from low to high. So right now I can go from low to high. So we give us the lowest price first, and then when we scroll down, we'll have the highest price, which is $49.99. And then we can go from high to low, and this time it's going to be from $49.99 to $39.99. So as you can see, the whole project was created only using Sveltekit and Svelte 5. The repo would be down in the description box. Make sure you guys go get the repo, and make sure that you start our repo to let me know that you visited. All right, so now let's get into our editor and start actually writing some code. So First of all, we're going to go to chassis and svelte because of, if you know me or you've watched my previous videos, you know that I love chassis and svelte and I love their guide. So we'll be using the installation guide. Go to Sveltekit, and I would open my editor of choice on my left hand side, and I'll just open out the terminal right here. That is where I'll run all of these commands. So first of all, they said we should use the Sveltekit CLI to create a new project. I'm going to choose Bun. Now, I previously used to use BNPM, but I tried that Bun like just some few days ago, and I tell you, it's crazy fast, almost unbelievably fast. So if you want to really pick out your developer experience in terms of speed, definitely try out Bun. We use Bun create to create a new Sveltekit application, but I want you to install or download those files in this particular directory. So I'll remove the name and I'll just use a space dot. Now it says, welcome to Sveltekit. Where should we create your project? Hit enter to use current directory. That's what I want. But if you want it to create it inside a different directory, just write out the name there instead of the dot. Which Svelte app template would go with the skeleton project? Add type checking with TypeScript. Yes, definitely with using TypeScript. And select additional options. We'll go with ESLint, we'll go with prettier, and we'll try out the Svelte 5 preview. And now we can move on to the next step, which is to add Tailwind. I'll use Bun for this as well. Now Svelte add is done, setting up Tailwind, and now we can install the dependencies with Bun as well. So I'll paste this in here and just give that a few seconds. It's installing. Now, as you can see, it's done installing, and the speed of Bun is just crazy. It blows my mind. And the next step for us now is to actually set up chassis and svelte. So I'll go to this command here to run the CLI, and I'll go with Bun. Paste this in here and enter. And now it's asking us some questions. Would you like to use TypeScript? Yes. Which style would you like to use? The default, which base color, that. Where is your global CSS file? Now let's check that out real quick. Ours is app.pcss. Now pcss just simply means post CSS, so it's still going to work the way CSS files work, but with the added feature of you being able to use post CSS syntax. So yeah, we'll click on enter for that as well. And it says, where is your Tailwind config located? Let's check for where, as that's correct. We'll click with enter. Configure the import IR list for components. Yeah. Configure the import IR list for utils. Yes. Your Tailwind config has been renamed Tailwind config.js. No issues. And now the project has been initialized. The dependencies have been installed, and the product installation oh my god, the project initialization, wow, did that word really just spin my tongue up upside down. Project initialization has been completed. Right now we can actually use chassis and svelte in the application, and if you go to our Tailwind config, which you see some edit has been done here, and our pcss as well, some variables that has been added. Yeah, it's all cool. And before we continue, I just want to show you some extensions that you probably love to install. Go to my extensions tab. Now, the first one you probably want to install is Svelte for VS Code. Now, this gives you Svelte language support, so you can do some cool things like kit actions and kit load. And the other one you want to install is, if you are using chassis and svelte, you would love to install this chassis and svelte VS Code extension. It allows you to use chassis and svelte components easily, integrate them easily, snippets will be added easily. You don't even need to go back to the documentation once you have this extension installed. And you'd also love to have the Tailwind CSS extension as well. So this one right here, it's just Tailwind tooling for VS Code. So you get auto completion, and you also get insights to what styles have been added when you use those utility classes. All right. Now, the first thing we want to do is to create our application. So we'll come into our routes folder. This is where all of the pages would exist, and go to the plus page.svelte. Now in here, you just want to clear this up, and you'd also go to your plus layout.svelte as well. And here you see we have this import for the CSS file, which is okay. But we are using slots here, and slots is a Svelte 4 thing. We don't want to use Svelte. We don't want to use slots. What we want to use is snippets. So the equivalent for the layout slots in the snippet format is actually very easy. So first of all, let's just format this properly. And we want to change this language to TypeScript. What we want to do here is just render this layout children. That is essentially what that slot was doing as well. So we can use @render children, but children is not defined anywhere. So what we can do is just get children from the prop. So import. Okay, not import. Sorry, that was my mistake. Let curly braces would be equals to $props. Now we are using the props rules here. So this is to declare the props that the component accepts. And in here, a layout would by default accept a children prop. And we can render out that children using the @render block. And now we have created the equivalent for that slot that we're using in Svelte 4. And when I save this and I run our application, I'm going to run using dev. You see that in our browser, we'll have this welcome to Sveltekit, visit, blah, blah, blah. And even though we have removed that from the page here, the reason why it still shows is because we didn't save this page. Now, when I save this page, we should see an empty screen there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my screens so we can see my editor and my web browser at the same time. All right. Now, any text that I put on this plus page.svelte file is going to show here. So, for example, if I go and write product filtering system and I save this, you see it pops up here saying product filtering system. Now, this is because of this is the root page. Good. The first thing we want to do here is add a main tag with these classes, an MX auto, maximum width of 1280 pixels, which is 7XL, or PX of 4. And if you're wondering how I'm getting all of this class showing, it's from that Tailwind IntelliSense extension that I told you to install. And then we have for the small screens, from the small screens to the larger screens, we have a PX of 6, and from the larger screens to the even extra larger screens, we have a PX of 8. Now I'll save this, the product filtering should disappear, and yeah, we don't have any content inside of it, so we shouldn't see anything. Now, next, what I'm going to do is add another div in here. Now, this div is going to be covering our title that we would add. So this div is basically just a foundation for the title. So it's just a flex box with an item baseline, which is an align item of baseline, justify between a border bottom, and the border bottom color should be gray 200. We want a padding bottom of 6 and a padding top of 24. And in here, I'll put in the title, which is just in H1 with the text for Excel and a font of bold, capitalize, tracking tight, and text gray 900. Now, you guys should just write this down. When I save this, we should see high quality cutting selection. Now, this was the text that I placed in here. Whatever text I place in here would reflect here. Now, the next we're going to do is right inside that div, that flex div, as a symbolim to the H1, we'll have another div, which is also going to be a flex container with an item of center. And in there, we're going to have a drop down menu. Now this drop down menu is going to be what we are using for our price sort, so we can sort the products from high to low and from low to high. So as you can see, we have red lines all over, and I'm going to show you guys one cool thing. If I get rid of this, on a normal day when I want to get that code, I'm going to have to go to chassis and Svelte and go to the drop down menu, look for it. Then when I get to it, I click on it and I go to the code, which is this one here, or I can just go to the usage right here for the anatomy, and I can copy this, go back to my code base and paste it. But that's a bit of a long trip. The cool thing about the chassis and Svelte extension that I told you to install is that we can simply just go cn x, then drop down menu, and it would pop out that snippet for us. And if I want to import this, I can just go above here, put a script tag here, make sure that I make this a language of TypeScript, and I can go and write CNI drop down menu like this, and it would, the red lines disappears from here because this is now being imported, but is what we are importing does not exist. So in order to actually install this, I can just go to my terminal, I can go to my terminal and then copy and paste the CLI, but I don't actually need to do that since I'm using this extension. I can just come here and look for chassis and Svelte, add new component, click that, and I'll search for the drop down menu, and it will know the package manager that I'm using. In my case, it's Born, so it knows that I'm using Born, and it's going to install that component for me. Now it's asking me, ready to install? Yeah, go for it, bro. And it installs the package dependencies, and by the time it's done installing, this red line should disappear. Now it's done installing the component, and you should see this red line go away. And if we go to our libs folder, components, UI, we should see that this drop down folder exists with all of this code, which we can freely edit if we want, but we'll leave everything as is default. Now let's continue from where we stopped. For that drop down menu, we are going to edit a couple of things. First of all, we're going to add some classes to it. We're going to add these classes to it. Then we're going to add that this is in the trigger. Now the trigger is actually the item that you click to trigger the drop down menu. So for the trigger, we're going to add a class of sort, and besides sort, we will add this chevron down icon. And to get this icon, we're going to install Lucid Svelte. So I'll use Born add Lucid Svelte and click enter. And as you can see, almost immediately, bam, Lucid Svelte has been installed. And now it doesn't give me these auto imports. So in order to get it, I'm just going to reload the window, and it's going to reload the window without actually stopping any of our terminals. So you'll notice that the terminal should still be running if I'm not wrong. Exactly. And now we should be able to have our auto import. It still didn't work. Well, we can all be winners every day. Or we can easily just import this by ourselves from here. So import chevron down from Lucid Svelte icons / chevron down, and in the drop menu content, the drop down menu content, we are looping or iterating over the sort options array, and we don't actually have that sort options right here. So let's add it. For the sort options, it's basically going to be an array of objects. So, and we're going to be using the as constant in order to make this read only, so it's not mutable. And you see that now the sort options error has gone away, and right now we're having an error concerning the filter because of the filter is not actually named anywhere. We've not created this filter variable. But let's actually go ahead and see what is going on here. Now for the drop down menu, we're going to have buttons, 3 buttons. The first one is going to be none. The second one is going to be, as you can see, name is done. Second one is going to be price low to high, and third one is going to be price high to low. And for those, we are adding some classes here. Now this is a way of adding conditional classes in Svelte. We can do that easily with CN since we are using chassis and Svelte, but I decided to show you this way. So first of all, we are adding the base style. So class, block, widthful, p2, px4, text left, and text sm. And for some conditional class, what we can do is we can check whether the value is equals to the filter.sort. If it is, then I want to add this class. And if the value is equals to the filter.sort, if it is, I want to add this class. And I'll do the same thing for here. And if it is, I want to add this class as well. Now, what is filter and what is filter.sort and all of that? Now, to define this filter, we'll be using Svelte 5's new way of defining variables and reactive variables. In the past, we used the let keyword, but now we are using the state runs, which a lot of people find similar to the way real works, but I don't think it's similar in the single bit. So we'll be using this, which we can just go with let filter and then use the state runs. And in the state runs, we can add TypeScript using this generic right here. So this product state we have not created yet, we will create in the future or right after this. So for this is an object of item. So we have the color, and the color is just an array of colors. We have beige, blue, green, purple, and white. The price is custom. Then we have the range. Now the range we'll create as well. For the custom is just so that because of we might want to select some particular range, some custom range, and if we don't see what we want, we can want to have a custom range. So we can just go and turn this to true, and then this would be disabled, and then we can add our own custom range. And for the size, we have large, medium, and small, and the sort we have none by default. So for the sort, we can go from none, and we can also go to price ascending and price descending. Now for the default custom price, it's basically just going to be 0 to 100. So we'll have this right here. This one is not a reactive variable, so I just used const and is equals to an array of 0 and 100. Am I using as number and number? And the reason why we're using this format is to tell TypeScript that we want this to not just be numbers, but to be an array of just 2 numbers. So almost like a tuple of some sort. So this is how I would add the default custom price. Next, we're going to add the product state type. Now, in order to add the product state type, we're going to actually have to use a couple of things. So I think it would be best for us to ignore it for now, and we'll come back to it later on. So I'll just have a comment here saying add product state type like this. We'll save this. And now if I check my browser, we should see just basically the same thing, but we should be seeing drop down at our right hand side, but we are actually not seeing that. I just give this a second. Right there. Now you can see we have sort and then the chevron down icon, and when I click on this, we have the price and low to high and high to low. Right after the drop down, we're just going to have this button with the filter icon inside of it. So we just import this filter icon, and it's not importing for us. So let's import this ourselves. And the import is going to be from Lucid Svelte as well again. So we use filter from Lucid Svelte /icon/filter. And for the button, we are basically just given a class of -m2, margin left of 4, text growth 400, and some over and some responsive classes. And for the filter, we're giving this a size of 5, which is basically a width of 5 and an height of 5 as well. So I'll save this. And in our browser, we won't see anything, and that is because of in our classes, we stated that on the larger screen sizes, we want this to be hidden. We only want this one to be visible on the smaller screen sizes, small to medium, but once it gets large, we want to hide it. And in order to see this, we can basically just reduce our screen size. And as you can see, we have the filter button showing up here. Now let's actually add the filter that is going to be at the site right here, where all the functionalities will exist. First of all, I want it to go down outside every div, but still inside the main tag, and just add a section here. And this section, give it a class of pattern bottom 24 and a pattern top of 6. Now in that section, you want to have a div, and in that div, you make this div a grid container with all of these classes right here. These are just grid classes and for responsiveness as well. Now in this div, you're going to add another div, and that div is going to be have a class of hidden, and on a large screen it will show. So we'll say a class of block, and inside that div we're going to have this UL. Now this UL is going to be what was showing that shared, all those disabled classes, all those disabled filters that weren't added, but just for the looks, we actually added them. And we're going to create this sub categories constant very soon, but just leave it as it is. And outside of that, we're going to come outside and then we're going to add this accordion root. And remember, if you want to add the accordion, you can just go cnx accordion, and chassis and svelte extension should pop out this for you, and then you edit it to look exactly the way mine looks right here. And we have not imported it, and that's why we are getting all of these errors, so just pardon me. And for the accordion content, we are going to be looping through something. We're going to be iterating through something, and to iterate, we're going to be using each block, and we're going to be iterate through the colors filter, that's options, and then we'll destructure the label and the value from there, and then we'll also get the ID as the key, and then we'll add an input right here, and then on the input we'll have an ID, which is going to be color dash the ID of that, or the index rather, of that item in the array. And we'll add this class to the input, and also have this onChange. And on this onChange, we're going to have this apply filter function that's going to apply this filter. And we'll also have this checked, which is going to be a Boolean value that's going to check if this value includes in this colors array. And for the label, we'll just pop out the label right here, and we'll close off the accordion content, and we'll have another accordion item, and this time it's going to be for the other filter. This time it's going to be for the size, and that's why we have the size constant right here. And after the size, we're going to have the price, and for the price we're going to have a bit of a difference. This time it's going to have an input, the same thing, but this time we won't be using the apply array filters. We'll be using this just custom, using filter.price, and setting it to its custom to false, and then the range, the value, and then the checked is going to check if the if the filter.price dot is custom is false, and the filter.price.range.0 is equals to the value.0, and what I'm just checking is just the index of 0. So in the array, in the range array, the index of 0, that's the first item, and for the value array, the index of 0 is also the first item as well. And we check if the index of the range, the second item, is the same thing as the values array second item, and that's what we're checking. And then for the custom, it's going to be below the price filters iteration. We'll have an input. This time it's going to have a price filters dot options dot length ID. We'll add this class, and then the onChange is going to be this. This time we are going to be setting the is custom to true, and the range is going to be set back to the default, which is 0 and 100. And then for the checked is going to be the filter dot price that is custom, which should be true at this point. And the label is going to be custom, and the div in here is where we're going to show the classes, or the text that the custom range is being selected to. So for example, if we move the end side of the range slider to 80, we want to see 0 to 80 here. So that's what this is doing. It's showing the filter.price.isCustom, minimum price that's fixed 0, and then that's basically just a check. Else we'll say the filter.price.range, the first item, then to fix 0, and we do the same thing, but this time for the second item on the array, which we use an index of 1. And then below we'll actually put in the slider, which is the custom slider that we added, the range slider, and it's going to be from chassis and svelte. So we have a slider, and then the value is going to be filters.price.isCustom. If this is true, we want to use the filter.price.range. Else we want to use the default custom price, which we defined earlier. And then for the maximum, it's going to be the default custom price, second item there. And then for the minimum, it's going to be the first item in the default custom price. The step is going to be 5. The class is going to be it's just going to be a conditional class, because we want this to be disabled if filter.price.is custom is false. So if it's false, we are going to add an opacity of 50 to show that look that is a bit something to let you know, to indicate to you that this range is disabled. And we also add to the disabled class in order to actually add the functionality of it being disabled and not just a style. And for the on value change, where we would actually have the functionality, we have this debounce submit. This is so that we can actually debounce the amount of time it hits our API, because of we don't want to just let it be the way it works. Because in that case, every time there's a movement in that slide, anytime there's a change in that slider, the most subtle change in that slider would make a call to the API, which is not the most efficient way of doing it. Since you might just want to slide from 100 to 50, then it's going to call that for every 5 steps. It's going to call the API for every 5 steps, which is not a smart move. So we want to debounce that, and then debounce it some few milliseconds, and then submit the inputs to our API, and then we'll close off our Accordion. So I know this is a bit of a much, but this again is a code that's been written by Josh previously. I'm not trying to concentrate too much on the markup, or more of the functionality that Svelte adds and the way it differs from the way React works. So for all of this, in order to get rid of all these red lines and all that, let's add all of the constants and all of the imports that we need inside our script tag. But you actually agree with me when I say that it's kind of boring, because we are not actually seeing what we are building, and our browser is not open. We don't have those products yet. So in order to actually make this a lot more interesting, so that we can build and then see the functionalities as we build, let's add those products first of all. Now, what I want you to do is to go to the GitHub repo that would be in the description, and then get the static files, and you'll see all of these images. Now, these images were prepared by Josh. So you get these images, and then you add them to your statics folder in your Svelte app. So right here, and make sure that they are in the static folder. Now, once you've done that, the next thing I want you to do is to move over to Upstash, and we'll be going to their serverless vector database. Click there to create an index. And first of all, we're going to have to log in. So if you already have an account, log in. If you don't have an account, make sure you create one. I'm just going to log in using my GitHub. And for some reason, it took us to Redis. I believe that must be a little bug on their side. But we'll move into the vector database, and you can see that I already have one right here, which was for the demo. I'll just create a new index. I'll call this product filter YT. I just like to use dash to separate my text. Sorry. And region can be anywhere. I'll just go with this. We have the embedded model. I'll just go with custom. For the dimension, I'll go with 3. And for the metrics, we'll go with I'm going to mess up this pronunciation, but let's try. Euclidean. I hope I got it right. Euclidean. Right, next. And then we'll go for the free, as you can see, free forever for obelisk, 10k updates, and 10k queries daily, which is just generous in today's world. And then add the payment method for the paid plans. So if you want to go for their paid plans, just make sure you add the payment method, and we click on create to create that for us. And as you can see, all good, successfully created index products filter YT. As you can see, it has been created. And what next we're going to do is to get our keys that we can use. So we'll go here to the env, and we'll copy these keys. So I'll just remove this eyes. I'll delete this right after this tutorial. But make sure that if you guys are using this for anything serious, make sure you keep this secret, especially this Upstash vector rest token. Make sure you keep that secret. Now I'll copy this, and I'll go back to my Sveltekit application. Now in here, what I want to do is to create an env file. So I'll go to the root, and the reason why I clicked on this post CSS config is so that it can get me to the root. So you can just click on any file that's in this root so that you can be directly on the root. Because sometimes you might make a mistake and put the file somewhere else, and you might wonder why it's not running. So go to the root, and then I'll do .env. That'll be the name. And in this .env, I'll just paste those files that I copied. And I pasted it twice by mistake. So I'll just remove one. And yeah, so we should have the Upstash vector rest URL and the Upstash vector rest token. I'll save this, make sure that that is saved. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is to install Upstash for the vector database. So I'll go into a new terminal, and I'll just write bourne add at Upstash/vector and click on enter. And okay, command not found because I wrote num instead of bourne. Let's go with bourne this time, and not bourne. All right, give that a second. And just like magic, it has been added, one package installed already. What I'm going to do next is initialize the vector database client. So I'll go to my SRC folder. In my libs folder, I'm going to create a new folder, a special folder called server. And the reason why I'm doing this is because of I don't want to expose any of this thing that I'm going to run on these inside these folders and the files inside these folders, any of the code. I don't want it to be exposed or visible to the client. And if it is by any chance linked to the client or linked to the client, Sveltekit would let us know. So Sveltekit tries to keep us secured as much as possible. So for the lib, I'll just create a new folder called server. And in server, I'll create a new folder called db. And in db, I'll have a file called index.tx. And in index.tx, I'll just have this right here, which is us importing index from Upstash/vector. And we are importing .env, which we would install later on. And then we have the type of the product, which is the ID, the image ID, the name, the size, the color, and the price. You don't really have to worry about this. And then we'll export the DB outside of this file so that we can actually use this DB outside of this file. Now let's install .env. Now what the .env does, it just helps us load in all our environmental variables. So I'll just have bourne add .env, and it has installed .env right like that. The error should go away very soon. And the error has disappeared. Now what we can do is add our seeding script. Now this seeding script is what we use to add or seed data into the database so that we can actually have those initial data, those product data that we use to filter and do all those functionalities. You can just go to the repo and get this directly from the repo. You don't have to write this down. So I'll create a new file called seed.ts. And in here, I'm just going to paste out all those and explain. So paste this here. We have a couple of things going on here. First of all, we are importing the product and the DB from the index file. And then we're also importing the .env as well. Now we have this function to generate random prices for us. And we have the color and the size constants. Now we have the seed function, which again, we are getting the product type from here, the index right here. So these are all the fields in our products. We have the ID, the image ID, and so on and so forth. So we get that, and then we loop over it, and then we push to that product. We push to that. These products are right here, and then we insert or upsert. In the case of this vector database, we upsert those products into the DB. Simple like that, and then we run this seed function. Now, in order to run this seed file in a context separate from our whole application, we're going to go to our package, just JSON file, and we'll add the seed script right here. So just right below preview, I will add this seed script. So now we're just saying seed bourne txx. Now we're going to have to install tsx, and we put the path to that seed file, which is this. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add tsx. So bun add tsx. You can add this as a dependency, as a dev dependency, I mean, but I don't really mind adding it usually the normal way. And after adding that, what we're just going to have to run is bun run seed, and it will actually seed this to our database. And that has been installed, and we can run bun seed like that. Okay, so let's go with bun run seed. The reason why it actually didn't work is not because of bun seed doesn't work, but because of we didn't save this file. So we're getting an error. Of course, we're always getting errors. Fail to save package.json. The content of the file is newer. Please compare your version with the. Are you kidding me? Overwrite. So we'll overwrite whatever rubbish it was telling us, and we'll run this one more time. And bun run seed. And yeah, we have successfully seed the data, and we can actually check this out by coming back here, and let's refresh this. So you can actually see that we don't have any difference showing. If I go to the usage, we still have 0 counts, 0 requests, and nothing showed. And the reason for that is not that this actually didn't seed, it actually worked, but we didn't save the seed file. So make sure that you don't make the same mistake that I'm making by making sure that you save every file that you leave, and to make sure that you have the word editor saved, you can just go with Ctrl KS. You should save every file and every unsaved file on this editor. Or if you're on Mac, it's going to be Command KX and then run that. Now we can actually seed this again, because the last time it seeded it with an empty seed script. And we can run this one more time, and let's see the way that looks this time. So now it should work. And let's give this a second. And yeah, we're still having 0. And it has updated, so it took it like a second to update, and it's kind of taking its time. So as you can see, we have 90 requests for the 5 count, 14K in terms of bandwidth, and yeah, our cost is still 0 because we are still in the free range. Now once you've done that, you should now have products that we can fetch from. So now we have products in our database. We can fetch from those, we can fetch those products and display it on our store, or in our store, anyhow you take it. In order to do that, we're going to create an API endpoint. So in our routes folder, we'll create a new folder called API. And in this folder, we'll create another folder called products. And in this folder, we'll create a special file called plus server.ts. What we're going to do in this file is create a post endpoint, and we'll structure the request from there and make sure that this is capital letter or all uppercase POST, and it's asynchronous. And from that, we are going to actually my bad, pasted the wrong thing. But in this post endpoint is where we're going to actually fetch the data. So we're going to use that DB that we imported or we exported from our database folder, and we're going to query for the product. So use DB the query, and then go with top K for 12, and then for the vector we'll go with 000 and include metadata, say true, so we can get all the data of our products. And then we're going to want to actually return this product. So we'll simply go with return JSON products right here, and we're going to want to import this JSON function because it's something that is provided to us by Sveltekit. It's going to be from svelte.js/kit, and also we're going to want to import DB as well. And save the file. Now we can use this endpoint to actually fetch data for our page. Now go back to our page. We can fetch from that endpoint very easily by creating this get product function. And this get product function basically uses fetch, our usual fetch, and we fetch from our base URL, and then we go into the API and then the products folder, which is where we have the endpoint in, and there would tell you that the method is post, and we have the headers content type application/json. And then when we've imported this, we want to cover that. Or sorry, when we've awaited that, we want to cover it in some brackets so that we can then just go with .json directly here. So we don't have to really have to await this and then go and write .json again. After doing that, we can just say as query result, and in this generic tip product, this is to add typing to it. And the reason why we're using tip product and not products, just like we imported products from here, because of something else is going to be named product, and so we don't have that name coalition. You can just rename this to tip product. And you're also going to want to import query results from Upstash/vector as well. And after doing all of that, you want to return the products. And now we can actually loop through those products. So I can just scroll down here. So after this div, I'll just paste this in here. And this is going to be a URL. The URL is going to be a GUI container. We have used the await block to await that get content or get products function, and we'll loop through the product once it has been retrieved successfully. So we'll loop through it and we'll create this product component very soon. But right here, what we are doing above here before we use this then, because this then is when its promise has resolved. So we then loop through it. But before you then, we're going to have a loading state, and during that loading state, we want to show this product skeleton right here. So we're going to create both of these. So you go to your components outside of the UI, but in the components folder, I'm going to create a new file called product skeleton, and we have .svelte in order to indicate that this is a svelte component. I would also have another file called products or products.svelte. Now in the product skeleton, what we're going to have is just simple skeleton styles. So just this, yeah, and these are self-closing divs, and that's why we're having this little error, or I don't know if I should call it error, more like warnings, but just ignore them. And for the product component itself, firstly, we're going to have a script tag, and in the script tag, we're going to define the props that we need. And for the props, we are just taking the product, and the product is going to be of type product, which we defined in the DB file or the DB folder. And after that, we're going to create this div, and this div is just going to be the container for the product. It's going to have a class of group and a style of relative. And in that div, we'll have another div, and this div is where the image of the product will live. So that's very simple classes here. And after that, we're going to have another div, and this other div is where all of the information of this product would live. So we have the size right here, and we have the product price as well here. So I can just Ctrl+K+S to save this file and every other unsaved file, and I can go back to my page right here. I can make sure that I import this product skeleton, but I name this product skeleton with an S. So, or did I actually? Let's see. All right, no S actually. Product skeleton, and I'm import the product as well, and I'll pass in the product of metadata as the product prop. And what I'm doing right here is that I want this to actually loop 12 times. So I'm saying ish, then curly braces length to 12 as underscore, then the product skeleton. So anytime this is in a loading state, it will show this product skeleton 12 times. Now we can actually continue building up the filters. What I'm going to do next is define all of the constants that we'll be using here. So I'll just paste this in. We're going to have the subcategories, if you remember, was the little thing I talked about, where we're just using it for styling sake. It doesn't have any functionality. As you can see, the href is all hashtags. And we have the color filter, and the color filter is an object of ID, name, and then the options. The options is an array of all of the colors. So we have white, beige, blue, green, and purple. And we are setting this as const because we want to make sure that this is read only, immutable. And then for the size filters, very similar, but for the options we have the value as S, M, and L, and for the price filter as well, again similar, but for the options we have a value of this array, which is from 0 to 100 for any price, from 0 to 20 for the under $20, and then from 0 to 40 for the under $40. And again, set as const to make sure that this is read only. Now I'm going to create the apply filter function, but I'm going to do it below this filter. This filter, so we'll be actually using that filter there. So it wants to be below the filter. And this is the apply filter function. I just want to give this some space so you can actually see what is going on here. So in here, we're taking two arguments, actually one argument, an object of category and value. And for the category is going to be of type filter, this filter right here, but we want to omit the price and the sort. So that's why we are doing key of omit type of filter, and we'll omit the price and the sort. So what will remain if the price and the sort have been omitted would be the color and the size. And for the value is going to be a string. Now we have this constant who's going to check if the filter has been applied. So is filter applied, it's just going to be the filter and then an index of that category. So if we say, if we're talking about the color filter, to be filter, then this color, then if it includes the value. I'm using as never, and the reason why I'm using as never because TypeScript will not shut up. So in order to just shut TypeScript up and get through with that as quick as possible, we're using as never. Then we have this if block checking if the filter is applied. If it is applied, then we will just filter out that value from that categories array. So if it's applied, we want to remove it. If it's not applied, we want to add it. That's what the else is doing here. The else is adding it. So we're pushing that value to that category array. Simple like that, just a basic toggle. Now we're going to add the minimum and the maximum variables that we are using here. So if I scroll down long enough, you see that we have right here, we have a minimum price and a maximum price right here, but they are not defined yet. So we're going to define them right here, just below these apply filters. We have the minimum price, and we're going to be using the derived runes. It's just going to do this simple calculation. It's just going to be a math dot minimum, and it's just going to be the minimum from the filter dot price range. And this is kind of like, I think, a little bit silly because we can just simply encode this, but we are going with this anyways. So it's just basically going to take the minimum from this. And the reason why we're doing it like this is because this is in order to make this as dynamic as possible, because we can change that those items at any time. So it will just get the minimum value from that array between these two, which is the smallest. That's what it's doing. And for the max price between these two, which is the largest. That's as simple as it gets. So we'll save that. And for the submit, which we are using for the custom range, this one right here. So I'll just scroll this, the bound submit. You're going to create it just below everything right here. It's basically just going to be first of all, create an onSubmit function which takes in the range, the structures, the new minimum and the new maximum, and then it adds them to the filter. So go filter, then dot price. Then we set it's custom to true because yes, we are using a custom range. And then we set the range to the new minimum and the new maximum. And then we want to debounce that by 400 milliseconds. So we go with the bounce submit, which is going to actually be the function that we would run, not this onSubmit. The bounce submit would call this onSubmit, and it's going to debounce it by 400 milliseconds. So we're going to actually have to install a new dependency, lodash debounce. It's going to help us easily debounce this. We can actually create a very simple lightweight debounce function, but I believe that Lodash has a very good implementation, and you can actually use this in production as well. So right here, this is what we want to run, but we'll not be using npm. We are using Bun, though we can still copy this and paste that in. Just change the npm to Bun, and we use add. Now the difference between add and I don't really know. I know that Bun says to use add, but I still works. So it might just be an alias. I might be an alias for add. I don't know if there'll be any difference in their speed or anything like that. So it has actually been added. The package has been added, and we can import the bounce. So I'll import the bounce from lodash.debounce. I'll scroll above to where I have my imports. I'll just import it like this. And now that error should go away. That red line should go away. And what you want to do is place onSubmit there as the first argument, and the second argument is the number of milliseconds that you want that to take before the bounces, which is 400. And now what we can do here is we can just import all of these components that we need. So we need the Accordion component. We need to import that, and we also need to import the slider as well. Now using the chassis and Svelte extension, we can do this easily by running CNI Accordion and CNI. Come on, give that a second to load up. CNI slider. Save that. And once we save, we see that we're having red lines, and that is because of they are not yet installed. Now we're going to have to install them using that same trick. This time we'll go for multiple components. We'll go chassis and Svelte, add multiple components. Want to add the slider and the accordion, so I'll go for the accordion here. Click on the checkbox, and for the slider as well, click on the checkbox and click enter, and it should install both those components for us. And the reason why we're having the red line error showing for lodash.debounce is because of it wants us to save or to install some, I believe it's the type declaration for it. So I will just copy this, and after this is done installing, we'll install that as well. Now that is done installing, I'll just paste in that command, and I'll change this to Bun add, and get rid of this I. We don't actually have to use save dev, we can just use D. And it has installed the types, and that red line should disappear now as well. What we can do now is save this, but even if we save this, it's actually the filters are not going to work. They would show, but they would not work. So let's take a look at it in our browser. So as you can see, the application shows up. It shows up perfectly nice. We have the filter at the side, but none of them is going to work. So if I click on this, or this, none of them works at all. Even if we've added that apply product filter function, and we've also added it to this event as well, to the unchanged event, none of them work at all. And the reason why none of them work is because of we don't, and actually for this price, when I open it and close it, you don't actually see anything at all. But that's not an issue. And the reason why they don't work is because we're not actually sending those filters to the API and actually filtering them. We are just stating them in that filter state. They exist on the client, but not on the database. So in order to fix that, first of all, we're going to have to pass those filters to this endpoint, and then we'll get them from that endpoint and actually filter out the results that we are getting from there. In order to pass those filters, we'll pass it through the body. So I'll just paste this in here. So we have body, and then we have to go with JSON.stringify, and then the filter. And for the filter, I'll pass in the source, the color, the price, and the size. And after doing that, we're going to go to our endpoint here, and here we're going to actually add the filter to the query. So query based on those filters. So we'll begin by defining some class and some constants above the post function here. So we're going to have a class filter, and in here we just have a private filter, would be a new map, and then we have an ask filter method. We just check whether the filter is this. So we are checking if the size of the filter is greater than 0, and a method to add the filter, which basically just pushes the filter, and then add row. And then we also have this getter method as well, and we'll set some constants here for the average product price and the maximum product price. The average product price is going to be 25, while the maximum is going to be 50. And now, in order to get all those data that we are sending through the body, we're just going to await request the JSON. You will get a body, and after we do that, we're going to want to structure it, and we want to make sure that the data that we are getting from the front end is actually secured. We wanted to make sure that it's typed and it's actually what we need. We don't want them to send anything. In order to do that, we're going to be using Zod to create this product filter validator, and we'll pass in the body.filter into that to make sure that that was actually correct. So first of all, we're going to actually install Zod. I'll go with bourne add Zod, and that should be quick as flash. And after we've added Zod, we're going to create a new folder called validators in our lib folder. So I'll just create that, and in the validators we'll create another file in validators called product validator, and inside product validator we'll have this code. So we're going to be importing Zod, Z from Zod first of all, and then defining some few constants, and we're actually exporting this. Make sure you export this. So we have the available size, the available color, and the available sort. And right here is where we are creating this Zod object. So we are calling this product filter validator, and we have a size. The size is going to be an array of z.enum. Now it's going to be an enum of these available sizes right here. And we also have for the color, and the color is going to be an array of the colors, available colors, and this will be an enum. And for the sort is going to be an enum of this available sort right here. And for the price is going to be a tuple of two numbers, so z number 1 and z number 2. And after doing that, we're going to want to create the product state type. So we're going to create the product state type from this product filter validator, and we can easily do that by using z.infer. So we use z.infer, we can infer type from this. I'm going to be type of product filter validator, but we want to omit something. So we're using the omit here. We want to omit the price, and that's because we don't want to use this style. And after we omit the price, we're going to add a new price here, which is going to have its custom as a boolean, and the range to be basically a tuple as well, which is going to be an array of just two numbers. And after doing this, we can actually use this product filter validator inside our endpoint right here. So we can just import this, make sure we save it, and then import it. You click enter on this, and that should import there successfully for us. And now we have all of this being structured successfully. So we have the color, the price, the size, and the sort. So now we can actually use this filter class, and we can use it by saying new filter. So const filter is equals to new filter, and when we get that, we just want to check for the length. So if the color length is greater than 0, we use the for each method to iterate through the color array and add a new color. And when we are using this vector database, it's slightly, I won't say slightly, but just different from the way you use a normal relational database than a non-relational database, whereas you can't really use any of those. Maybe if you are using Prisma or any of those, you're probably using where and where clause and or and all that. But in this vector database, it's kind of different. So as in the filter.add, then this color, will be equal to, make sure that they're in string, and then be that color. And else, if the color of the length is actually 0, then we'll add raw, which should just be the color will be equals to the color empty string, like that. And that will be for the color. And the next one will actually be for the size. So we'll do the same thing for the size as well. And after doing that for the size, we want to add the price. So add the price with add row, which we defined right here. And we'll add the size. So we'll go with the first argument size, and then the second one will be the filter that we want to add. So after doing that, we're going to want to add the sort as well, because if you remember, we are having a sort functionality, and the sort is the only thing we have not added yet. So we want to change this vector from just being 000 to 00, and then the sort. For the sort, we said if the sort is equals to none, then we want the average product price. Else, if the sort is equals to price dot ascending, we want 0. And else, if that all results will false, we just want the maximum product size, and the maximum product size in our case is 50. So after doing that, we can actually implement the filter to this query. So I can come under here and say comma, and under right here, I can paste in the filter, and the filter is going to be basically us checking if the filter has a filter, then we'll get the filter, else it will be undefined. And it's a far cleaner method to use this class than to just use it directly here and scramble ramble code up and down. So we can save this, make sure that that is saved, and we can go back to our page file and see if everything is clean. And yeah, there shouldn't be any issues here. And there's actually just one issue. Cn is actually a function created for us by Cn Svelte. So if I go to utils, you'll see that we have this Cn utility function right here. So we can, since it's exported from this file, we can import it to this plus page Svelte file. And if the auto import would not work, all right, it worked, and we can just click here to make sure that it's imported. We'll check it above right here, and seeing it's been imported right here. And Lodash is still crying for some reason. Maybe it wants us to reload, but no worries, we can just ignore it for now. And I'll save this file. Make sure that that file is saved. Then we'll go back to our browser and we'll refresh this to make sure that it's getting the latest updates. Even if auto reload is enabled, sometimes it might not work. So make sure you reload, you refresh that. And now we have the skeleton screen. As you can see, it's actually fetching the data, and it has gotten all the data here, and we can actually now check if this works. So I want to remove all of the white. So I click on the white, and as you can see, it fetches again, and all of the white has been removed. And so let's go for the size. I want only medium size. I'll remove the large and the small, and all the size being returned are size M, which indicates that that's the medium size. And for the price, I'll go with under 20, which will give me the ones that are under 20. And I can also go for the custom, and I can choose from 20 to, let's go with something lower than that. Let's go with 25. So we only have the ones that are from 20, or that are from 0 to 25. And right now it's going from the highest to the lowest. So we can change this to low to high. It should now show the lowest to the highest. And that's it. That's all for this video. Thank you all so much if you're able to stay to the end of this video. And make sure you guys go check out Josh's YouTube channel, Josh tried Upstash. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you comment on this latest video, letting him know who sent you, the one and only from the Svelte community. And if you guys would love to see more of this type of videos in the future, let me know in the comment section below. I really do appreciate all your support. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.